Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by The Plain Truth, Slick James Johnson, Ranty Flat Earth, Physics Warrior, Paul, Life is Short, Flatten Earth, Chocolate Sayin, and P. Mars. Good to have you one and all.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning. Hey, Travis, just to finish that up then, I think we're largely on the same page, I think, as far as analyzing what's going on in that photo. I would agree.
Yeah, can you see am I still sharing, Nathan?
I can put you on, I've got Ranty up, but yes, you are now.
Okay, so I've been trying to find different videos of contrast. So the video on the left, you can see more. You can see the ground.
Okay, so here's where we might differ a little bit. So I'm saying that the purple line, you're saying that. So here's where Ranty, I think, is, and we're all kind of getting our wires crossed a little bit, and which one is right, is yet to be determined. But the Ranty, I think, is saying that the water line is the true water line, like the one on the left is the one on the right. Is that right, Ranty? And then the inferior mirage is just blocking your ability to see the ground.
Sorry, which image are we looking at? Are we looking at somebody else's image right now, or my one that I've got up?
Sorry. Oh yeah, I'm looking at Plain Truth's Lighthouse.
Have a look, see if I can bring it up. Sorry, say again.
So you're saying that the water lines between those two images are essentially the same points. Yeah, so he's lining them up. So you're saying that the inferior mirage is just blocking what normally would be there. And I think where I'm differing is that image is potentially been dropped behind the purple, the horizon line. And it's okay. It's okay to have it pressed beyond the diffraction limit, but that you're actually seeing the inferior mirage is just water.
But it's not water, and I can show you why. But
possibly if you could stick me up, Nathan. I think Life is Short is going to be quite blown away when he sees this, because this will kind of like.
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, can you see my image now?
Yeah, I got you.
So essentially the same spot. I'm about 25 feet or so in a different position along the railings, but I'm essentially at the same height. These railings are the exact same height. That's why the post is just ever so slightly out of the way. On the right hand side, we've got the inferior mirage. On the left, we've just got a very beautiful day where we're seeing stuff. You can see how the inferior mirage has dropped the perceived horizon on the right hand image. So obviously you got the water here. Obviously the water's substantially lower on this particular one with the inferior mirage. But look at all the blockage in the middle. Look at all that blockage. You should have a clear line of sight to this, but you haven't. And taking a true line through the center, where the inferior mirage is, what you're saying is that the inferior mirage is below, but it can't be because it's also higher. So it is blockage. It can't you can't just say that it's over the water, you know?
Well, no, I don't know. I'm just looking at it. I just would say that the inferior mirage point, if you draw your mirror line through the where it's mirroring, everything below that point is water.
Okay, well, if you look on the left-hand side, can you see that you've got, that isn't water, that's actually a sand dune. So behind the post, above the waterline here, you've got the sand dune. Behind that, you've actually got another bit of water, so a bit of like an estuary kind of thing, but it's actually connected to the ocean. Behind that, you've got some smaller townhouse buildings next to the waterway, and behind it, you've got the buildings of Barrow. So you've got 4 different areas here that you're looking at, and you don't see any of them apart from the big buildings. All that inferior mirage is just blocking it all out. And if you take a direct line of sight through that, essentially you should see the buildings at least. You should see the estuary behind. Parts of the sand dune you should still see, but all of it is blocked. All of it is miraged out.
Well, let me explain it this way. What if you were to draw your inflection or your mirror point through that right image, okay? And let's say you were to just cut and paste the water and replace the bottom part of the reflection just with water. And now let's say let's just analyze that photo and compare the two. You would say, huh, some of the stuff appears to be blocked from the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that case, we're not looking at a mirage now. We're just looking at, water and then a line and then the bottom of the beach there is a little bit obscured. So
hang on, wait a minute. You can't just say it's a little bit obscured because my elevation here is about 50 feet above actual sea level, and there should only be around about 45 feet of curvature between myself and those buildings in the background. So essentially, we shouldn't see them. These little buildings.
Well, no, I know that's a separate issue though. Don't even curvature or anything.
However, we do have a direct line of sight on a very clear day, and everything's very clear. But when you've got this inferior mirage, everything that you should see isn't there, and yet the inferior mirage line, so this midpoint here, you've also got blockage above as well as blockage below. So it's not just below; you've got blockage above as well. So imagine you was looking at a boat. Imagine this is a boat, and the buildings that are here in front of the big building is, let's say, the hull of the boat, the bottom of the boat. So you can't see the bottom of the boat because the inferior mirage is blocking it out.
I get it. So when you're saying blockage above, though, how do you know that it's blocking above and not the image is just pressing lower?
Because you've got the post in the foreground. That post is only 4 miles away. The buildings are 18.3 miles away.
But
so because you can scale it.
Yeah, I know. But if light is bending right to the observer and is bending upward to the observer, the further away it is and the more bend it has, the lower you're going to press it within your field of view. That's just refraction, right? That's
well,
like
okay. So why is it not pressed on this?
Looking at a coin in the bottom of a water jar, right? That's an example of downward refraction. The coin's apparent position is not the same as its actual position.
Okay.
And the same works for upward refraction. Looking at these buildings, you're pressing them lower across the horizon line, and it's okay to have obstruction from the bottom. It's just part of vision. It doesn't. But anyway.
But this wouldn't have reached the diffraction limit at an elevation of 50 feet and distance 18.2, 18.3 miles away. You wouldn't get the diffraction limit at this point. But what I'm saying is you do get a very clear line of sight on this. So you can see these buildings. There's no diffraction going on here. But yet on the right-hand image with this inferior mirage, now what's causing the inferior mirage on this day? It can't be the diffraction limit. And also, you've got this blockage above the midpoint.
Refraction causes upward, an emission layer causes the inferior mirage. It's like an extreme form of upward refraction. And that upward refraction continues on upward. And as it does so, and you start to get clarity on the distant buildings, they're going to be pressed lower. And you might even see some squashing, compression, expansion phenomenon.
I don't think that answers this, though.
Say that again?
I just don't think it answers this particular observation, because I'm seeing I'm definitely seeing everything that I should see is obstructed. Everything apart from the buildings behind all these townhouses here and the estuary and the sand dunes, they're all obscured. And also to the point that the water is actually obscured, well, is hidden by the inferior mirage. The inferior mirage is lying over the water and is blocking out the water behind the post. So it's definitely blocking out stuff, but it's also blocking out stuff higher than that. So all I'm saying is that when you're looking at a boat in the distance, that when I'm saying that where the midpoint of the inferior mirage is, right, you could place a light there, and so basically it would be on the bottom of the boat, and it would pierce through this inferior mirage, because the globers would say that this is blockage. This blockage is curvature, and
Right.
So, Ranty, let me put it to you this way. Look at the mountain in the background.
yes.
Okay, so you are not you have pressed that mountain lower on the right image.
Hard to say. It's like from 30 feet different, so it's not an exact match for the same placement. That's the one thing I would say.
Right,
So
sorry to interrupt you guys. Sorry. So Travis has been waiting for a while to present something, and we've been joined by Tim Osman, I believe. How you doing, Tim? Hello.
Kick him.
Well, go ahead, Travis.
Ranty,
Hello.
My mic
Yeah,
was.
I don't want to hijack Ranty right now. I mean, if I can wait until we're finished with this point.
Okay, fine.
Well, the only thing I'm saying is that if you've got a direct line of sight on this particular day to this building, and it was a beautiful day, it's actually on a video, so you can actually just scan across this. You can see the birds flying. There doesn't appear to be any obstruction or any inferior mirage going on. It's just a beautiful day where you can see stuff. So
right.
on
It's
a day
high.
where you can just see
It
things,
will be higher.
no, it's the same height.
No, I'm saying that the horizon line, your apparent horizon line, is going to be higher in the clear day. That's the
Okay.
same effect we saw with red pill stuff, right? So I was if you can like go to that part 4 where I looked at your time lapse footage and compared it to your footage where you took the same time frame but went to different heights, and you can see what's going on with upward refraction, how you're pressing something lower. So that's why you're seeing more of that. The mountain appears lower in the background than it does for the left picture, because it is lower. The whole image has been brought lower within your vision, and it's okay if those buildings have been pressed a little bit lower behind the horizon line. That horizon line being that inflection point on the mirror.
I'm not sure that's the. You see, I haven't got the left-hand side of this building here, which would be further over here, and you can see the mountains dropping off. So I just think that's I think the mountain range dropping off here would probably still be shown in the same location if I'd taken a screenshot of this further to the left. So I'm going to ignore that point. Sorry, just because it's not from the same exact. We haven't got all the information to see that. But
I got it, but again, I'll just ask. Just go look at that part of that video in that part 4 where we kind of compare where your camera doesn't move. Right, your camera's sitting there stationary on the beach, and compare what the center frame is versus the apparent horizon line.
Okay, but my point still remains that the inferior mirage is atmospheric blockage. I can detail that this is being blocked out. These buildings that we should see, which are higher than the center point of the inferior mirage, are being blocked out.
Let me put it this way. If you were to set this camera up on the right image and you were to just do a time lapse, what would I see? I would see throughout the day, possibly, I would see the inferior mirage start to dissipate, and that entire image is going to be brought a little bit higher within your frame of view. And to the point where if we were to match the conditions on the left, then they would be the same image.
Okay, well that's worth trying then. So if that's what you think, I can do a 12-hour time lapse. I'm going to do that up in Scotland as well. So I'm going to go up on the Saturday and do a full day time lapse.
Yeah, but then you've got to realize though that you are going to want you're going to want nature to give you the kind of conditions that fulfills what Life is Short just said.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there's no guarantee that
you're going to get the clear conditions. Yep.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that your inferior mirage is going to go away.
You can come up to Salt Lake, the Great Salt Lake. We got really good conditions out here, guys. Still haven't had a flat earther come up here for some reason.
Okay, so what's the claim in Salt Lake?
Oh, the claim is excellent in Salt Lake, my friend. Now, I'll go ahead and present something really quickly. We did go to Antelope Island not too long ago, as well as the Bonneville Salt Flats. We did actually do GPS triangulations through the Bonneville Salt Flats for 40 miles and with XYZ coordinates. And we did this twice with 2 GPS units, actually. Very, very interesting that we come out to about 0.4, 0.5 of the proposed radius of the Earth. Now, also, what's very interesting at the Great Salt Lake is that you can go and look at Salt Lake City from 26 miles away. And these guys like to go on about, oh, look at this terrible conditions I have from 5 miles away continuously. But basically, you can get these kinds of images to show that the flat Earth is basically nonsense, completely nonsense from 26 miles away. Now, also,
are you going to say anything worthwhile?
Yes, we do this as well. This is actually the tip of 37 miles away, very, very level water. Gunnison Island, it's called. Now, when you actually get higher, this is what happens, is the Gunnison Island actually grows on you. It gets much, much larger. So, anywho, the Great Salt Lake, Salt Lake City, very, very good place for flat earthers to come to do these tests, but they still won't for some reason.
Not a very clear image, is it? It's kind of milky.
This is from 37 miles away.
Yeah, it's kind of milky. It's not very... Can you get a better image?
Well, refractive effects are not there like yours, so this is a very good image. And as you can see, I have 100 different images. I just pulled
I can
up
hardly
these
see
two.
it. It's hardly even visible.
What's the distance again?
37 miles.
Timmy, would it be worthwhile suggesting that, you say you've got no inferior mirage going on this day, and I've just showed you Panda Boat with no inferior mirage, but you did see a lot of compression. Would that not sort of like trigger something in your brain that says that maybe this is being compressed at the bottom?
No. These compressed things. Okay. Well, look at this. I mean, I can bring up the original images of these, and I can actually count the windows.
That's what I've been asking you to do. Yeah.
I have them all throughout my videos. Once you show me that you've actually watched my videos and you actually care about this subject, I'll give them to you.
I went to your playlist. There was just 2 videos. Like one was a minute long and the other one was like 2 minutes.
No, there's several. You just have to look for Salt Lake City. There's many that go over, had the distance, where I was, all this kind of stuff. So it's very, very relevant that you do that. So this is 26 miles away, and you can actually count the windows, Ranty. So yes, there are sometimes I have about 3 times. What?
I can't even see the windows there, Tim, where your cursor is. Where are the windows?
You can't see? Well, you can't see curve either, even though you show it every day. So
that's
a
side issue. You said that I could see the windows. Where are they?
Yeah, these windows right here. You can't see windows here.
Oh, you talking about those little tiny
windows.
Parts? Yeah.
Yep, those are windows.
I was just asking which one you were referring to because I couldn't see.
So,
It wasn't.
That's windows.
Image.
Yep. So anyway,
that image real quick. Can you go back? I'm sorry. What you just had up. Can you go back there? The hotel in the background. So you're at different heights, right? And you're going to assume that you're looking at the same exact thing and you're just raising your height. But
I'm going to assume that? Why wouldn't I assume that? If I literally had a camera and I raised my height and I took pictures at different heights, what assumptions there? Why are you saying I'm assuming
that
things?
You're looking through less refraction as you raise your height because the refraction.
I didn't make that assumption. You can make that assumption for me, but I didn't.
I'm making that assumption.
Okay.
And
well,
so
I disagree with that assumption.
Well, but if you compare, it looks to me like if you go to your 25-foot and you look at the top of the hotel, it looks more expanded than at your, what's the upper one? 1.5 foot.
1.5 foot. Yeah, the 1.5 is compressed.
You guys can say that, but you don't know the zoom on this at all. You don't know what I've done to these images at all.
What have you done to the images, Timmy? What have you done to them?
Well, when I do a comparison, I'm actually trying to compare them up. So perhaps I'm at different zooms with this. It's not a conspiracy. I mean, look at right here, how this is further out this way. And look at how this is, I lined them up right here, but this right here is kicked out a little bit, probably because I didn't do it correctly, or this didn't have enough on this side. So I was trying to make it somewhat square.
How would
it's still pictures from these heights, guys, and it still begs the question: why 210 feet of this building is gone, and 100 feet that leads up from the water's edge to the building, and why this matches the globe, just like Ranty's images? Why does Ranty's and my images match the globe?
Sorry. So I just grabbed whatever I've got on screen to do a quick, like, rough scaling of those buildings, and he's right. The lower you go, it seems. The higher you go, the wider they seem to get. So on the images that are on the top, the buildings seem to be smaller. As you get lower to the ground, the buildings seem to be becoming more compressed, Tim.
So I've already, I was hoping that you actually listened to what I had said about that. So these images could be at a slightly different zoom. Obviously, it's a little bit back on the causeway, but so it's not necessary that they're at the same exact zoom.
Sorry, Tim, could you just go back to it a second?
Why would Zoom make things bigger? I don't know, because that's what it does. I mean, look at this right here.
Sorry, Tim. Do you want to go back to your comparison shot just for a sec?
Yeah.
Thanks. So, do you see on the left-hand side, you've got on the 25 foot, the 5 foot, and the whatever it is very low, you've got this, like, piece of land coming down on the left-hand side. Just for the audience's benefit, I'll highlight what I'm talking about. This piece of land here, on the left. Just beneath where it says 25 foot, and just beneath where it says 5 foot, you've got a piece of land. And to my eye, they are all basically perfectly lined up. So you're saying the zoom level's different. Why aren't these in different positions then? Because to my eye, they're all in exactly the same position.
Oh, you can't see my mouse. I was trying to show you, I guess. So it's matched up on the left side, obviously. But as you continue to go to the right, it starts to get a little bit unmatched. So the thing is I can pull up the originals and remake this to have it scale. But really, guys, when I scale things a little bit this way, a little bit that way for a comparison, it's not going to unobstruct the buildings. So this is the point here, guys. And we can go on about how you want to bring up every other thing, but what's happening here in front of your face.
Thank you for the clarity, Tim. Tim, you're kind of gish galloping. So why, in that case? Okay, fine. You're saying
no. You just want me to not
take it off screen again. Are you going to take it off screen so we can't talk about it? You're going to talk all over me. What's the deal here? Do you not want to play fair, Tim? So we still haven't got an answer to why the buildings that you're now covering up for some reason. I don't know why you'd be scared of having this conversation about your own pictures.
I have the originals pulled up right here.
We've got this comparison that you don't seem to want to use anymore. Do you want to keep the comparison up? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, keep the comparison up, Timmy boy.
So
no, I don't need to do anything you guys say.
Oh, well, you don't have to. We just assert that you're scared of talking about this then, shall we, Tim? You're scared of looking at the comparisons? Is that what this is? Fear. Fear.
Yeah.
Oh, jolly good. There we go. He's not as scared after all.
Let's throw this.
Wow, that was a simple trick that worked well. So,
let's throw
Tim,
this one up here.
The buildings, before you talk all over every word I say as this is your only tactic, why are the buildings getting more squashed as you lower your elevation? Seem to be covering the comparison, Tim.
What the hell are you doing, Tim?
So what if I was to put
Tim,
this
you don't seem to be playing very fair.
comparison?
When you talk about the comparison, it's nice and clear, whereas when we talk about it, you're covering it with garbage. So do you want to move that crap off and just leave it with what you've been using on like the same exact video and the same exact crap you've been using for about 7 months? So this is the same garbage you put up on every live stream, and we'd like to talk about it without you constantly adjusting it. Do you want to stop adjusting it?
No, let's fix it.
What, fix it? Well, you're going to change it.
So now, is there any obstruction still?
Sorry, we're talking about Tim. We're talking about the fact that this building at the top is considerably more squashed than this building at the bottom.
I've already said you don't know the aspect ratios of these pictures.
Oh well, there's not enough information. Let's just take it off screen then. Do you want to give us the aspect ratios for every picture right now?
Well, it's a P900, so you should be able to figure that out.
Sorry, do you want to give us the aspect ratios for each of those individual shots as it's you presenting it? So if we haven't got enough information, this is your information. So you're telling us you haven't done a good enough job of giving us the information, Tim. Is that the problem
Nathan,
here?
Guys.
Well, you're just talking all over me. So, Tim,
what's your point here?
I'll
The
try and
point
get
is
it in without
you
you
haven't ruled out
talking.
abstraction.
Yeah, my point is,
So
you've just said...
what's wrong with the
Oh, you are going to
obstruction
talk all over me. Is this your only tactic? You're having your ass handed to you, are you, Tim? Scared
So
to hear
what's
what
with
I've got
the
to say, are you?
Tim,
Scared to hear
stop
me?
talking.
Scared to hear me, Tim? Is this fear of me? You should be scared. Okay, Tim, now
Scared?
shut your mouth.
I
Yeah,
fixed the picture. It's now lined up. Who cares?
so, Tim.
Now the picture's lined up to where you guys wanted it. So what's up with the obstruction, guys?
So why is it becoming more and more squashed as you lower your elevation, Tim?
It's not.
It is. I can see it's visually on
No,
screen.
it's not. How so?
We keep covering it up with stuff.
No, I'll pull up. Hey, Ranty, look at this.
So you're just
This is a
jumping around
comparison.
from picture
We'll
to picture. Are
see-
you scared to talk about this, Tim? Is this fear of us flat earthers
You're just
talking
going
about
to
your crappy
continue to
images?
say that. Yeah, so go ahead. What am I scared of?
Well, it's all squashed. As you get higher, it gets more
How is it squashed?
lengthened. So you can see the buildings getting
What are you
uncompressed.
comparing it to?
Your pictures, unless you're telling
Okay.
me I don't have enough information to compare them, in which case I'd fault that with you as it's your information. So do we have
what's
enough
wrong with
information
them?
to discuss this, Tim? Because a minute ago you said we didn't have enough information. Given that it's your information, I'm going to lay that blame at your door,
Okay,
aren't
what's
I?
wrong with it?
You tell
you-
me.
can
You
you
said
go-
we couldn't. You said
can
we
you go
didn't
down to
know.
the very
When we started to
bottom
pull it
image?
apart, you said we didn't have enough information about the aspect ratios. This is your information, so you don't have enough information about the aspect ratios, Tim.
No, I know the aspect ratios.
Well, do you
so
wanna give it
anyway,
us and tell us what
now
we
I
need?
have this lined up, guys. So now where it's lined up, can we answer the obstruction problem? So
What obstruction?
You see how the 25-foot is now matching with the 5-foot as far as my laziness that I did with his comparison. So now it just took a few seconds to fix. So why is there more obstruction lower to the ground, 26 miles looking at Salt Lake?
Foreshortening.
Let's ignore
Foreshortening.
Yeah,
compression.
foreshortening.
Okay.
Let's ignore
You're
the
lowering your
compression.
angle. You're limiting the amount in the bottom half of your field of view as you go lower. It's called foreshortening. Did you look it up? I dropped it in your live chat.
Foreshortening. That's
Correct.
the new one, huh? It's not diffraction
No,
or
no, no,
perspective.
it's not new. It's
swells
just
or
I labeled
waves.
it incorrectly.
It's not Aries.
Not new.
It's not Aries diffraction.
Not new. No. Not new. I was calling it
Not
angle
anymore.
of attack incorrectly. It's foreshortening is the correct term.
Well, it was perspective before that, and it was
There's
like 10 other
perspective as
things
well.
before that.
Perspective
Nathan.
is part of
Tim,
that.
there's actually several reasons why it can happen. And so I would say, how would you describe?
Yeah, it's called curvature.
No, it's not. There's several
No,
reasons.
it's not. Oh.
So there's
because I look
let's
the other way. I look
Here-
west. I look
listen.
west, and I see.
So
this.
do you know what
Shut up and
foreshortening
let him
is?
talk.
What's foreshortening, Tim?
Shout out to Timmy
Has
Osmosis.
nothing to do with this.
Well, how do you know? What is it? Tell me what foreshortening is.
Has
Detail
nothing to
it.
do with this.
Well, what is it?
Has nothing to do with this.
Well, you don't know what it is.
How would you know?
Tell me what
So anyway,
foreshortening
this
is.
is what flat
Detail.
earthers do.
Give me
They
a
can't
description of
answer actual
foreshortening.
questions.
You
They
keep
just
telling me it's
bring
got
up
nothing to do with
random
it.
shit that they
Tell
talk
me
about this
what it
week,
is.
then
You
talk
actually
over
sound
you
like the one who
completely.
can't answer a
Sorry,
question,
Tim.
man.
I want you to tell us what foreshortening is. You've declared it's got nothing to do with it. Now tell us what it is that's got nothing to do
Oh,
with
let
it.
me look it up real quick for you.
Oh, so you've declared it's got nothing to do with it, and you haven't got the vaguest notion what it is?
Oh, so you're asking me a semantical question that you're...
No, I've asked you what foreshortening is, and you've declared quite boldly that it's got nothing to do with it. Then I ask you to tell me what foreshortening is, and you say you're going to go and look it up.
So we're looking it up now. So
No,
portray
you've
or-
already declared it's got nothing to do with it. Why would you look it up after I've asked you whether or not you know what it is, and you've declared that it's got absolutely nothing to do with it? Why would you do that? You're looking it up after you've declared that
arbitrarily
it's got
or
nothing to do with
dramatically
it.
shorten or reduce something in time or scale. Okay, so is it this one that you're going after, Nathan?
You want to read it again, Tim?
Portray or show an object or view as closer than it is, or as having less depth or distance as an effect of perspective or the angle of vision. Okay.
That's fucking beautiful, Tim. I'd say that absolutely hits the nail quite squarely on the head, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you can play your games here, but
Not games, you stupid fuckwit. It's foreshortening, you dumbass.
how does this have to do with these images?
Oi! It's foreshortening, you stupid fuckwit.
Uh-oh,
Yeah.
here goes.
Are you
here it
listening
goes.
to me, you dumbass? You've declared it's got nothing to do with it. You've literally read the description. It couldn't be more appropriate. You stupid moron. So having declared it's got nothing to do with foreshortening, it's literally described the very effect that you're describing in your pictures. You stupid fuckwit.
Yeah, where are your pictures?
Yeah, you're a fuckwit, Tim. You haven't got the slightest clue. You declared it had nothing to do with it. And then when you read the description, it couldn't be more appropriate. That tells me that you discount things that you don't even understand. That makes you retarded, Tim. What a dumbass. Do you want to read it again? Yeah, that's all you can do. Sing. What a dumbass.
Yeah,
what a dumbass. You've just read foreshortening.
Anyway.
It's precisely the effect that's being described in your images. And now you're just rumpusing me.
Foreshortening.
Yeah, you just read it out. It's precisely what's happening.
Curvature is foreshortening. Cool.
No, not curvature. You just told us foreshortening, the very effect that's actually happening here, had nothing to do with it, and you asserted that it's curvature. So if it's got nothing to do with it, why is it precisely the description of what's occurring?
This is boring, guys.
Oh yeah, boring when you have your ass handed to you for your own stupidity. Yeah, next time I wouldn't declare that something hasn't got anything to do with it when you haven't even looked it up. What a complete fuckwit. You've made yourself look completely stupid here, Tim. You've said it's got nothing to do with it and you don't even know what it is.
How does foreshortening have anything to do with it?
Oh, don't ask me questions, fuckwit.
Oh, okay.
It's foreshortening, Tim. Go and research it a bit more than looking it up after declaring it's got nothing to do with it.
So 200 feet of the building is gone. And
yeah, shut up. Don't make any more assertions. Go away and look up what foreshortening is.
Hey, guys, it used to be perspective. It used to be Riley's criterion.
Yeah, it said perspective in the description of foreshortening, didn't it, dumbass? You only just read it for the first time 2.5 minutes ago, yet you're declaring it's not to do with perspective when it was in the description of foreshortening.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome to Tim's dumb fuckery. Welcome to Tim's stupidity. Welcome to Tim declaring that foreshortening's got nothing to do with it, then reading the very description of what's happening. Yeah, that's all you can do, rumpus me while I point out your stupidity, Tim. Well done for making yourself look completely stupid by looking at the definition after declaring it's got nothing to do with precisely what you're presenting. Well done for making yourself look very stupid here.
Well, I mean, we can ask the question that I would ask him, and that is, he made the declaration 200 feet of the building is missing. And my simple question would be, how did you arrive at that number?
Good question.
Because it's a pretty good...
I smell an R rape. Tell us how you got that figure, Tim.
Well, and how did he rule out all the other issues that it could have
Sorry, bear with me. Tim,
right?
How did you get that number? Then bend over, bite the pillow, and brace for R. I'm going to rape you with R, Tim. Tell me where you got that number. Quick, sharp, you stupid fuckwit. Seem to be very quiet, Tim. Yeah? Do you want to tell us where you got that number from? So I can rape you with R, your reification of a globe model based on the assumption of an R value.
Oh, I've been muted. All right, guys, I'm out. Later.
Talking about being muted, you mean you're about to get raped with R, so you ran away? No one muted you, you lying piece of shit. You were just about to be bent over with your religion. That's all that happened there.
I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but he was muted.
Oh, was he? I'll take it all back to him.
Yeah, I did it. I'm sorry. I got tired of hearing him.
Don't mute people on the panel. That really annoys me. Sorry, I take it back, Tim. Nonetheless, you were about to get raped, so you just took the opportunity and used your excuse.
That must be true. Okay, so if we can maybe bring it back, since we had that nice little segue, to go back to Life is Short. What's your name?
Travis.
Me too.
Yeah.
What's up, brother?
Good name.
Okay, so I've got a couple of images to show that deal with this inferior mirage, and then some of the stuff that you've said resonates with some of the stuff that I've been thinking about. So I'm going to share my screen. Share. And okay, so what we're going to see here is, again, the lighthouse is going to come up on the right. This little white line right here, when I was first looking through this footage after I shot it, I thought was a pedestrian walking, because it traversed the entire screen. and went from the right to the left. Okay, so I'm watching this thing move and move, and it looks like it's walking and it's walking, it's walking, and then this comes along.
That looks
Got two
creepy,
more right
possibly
here.
a stick man.
2 more right here. 1 right here.
Okay.
Is it a boat in the
Okay.
foreground?
I didn't hear you, Nathan.
Is it a boat in the foreground? We just can't see the bottom of it.
No, there's no boat in this
Okay.
image. Yeah, there's a water bird right here,
Oh,
but
yeah, okay.
that's about it. Okay. So you can see these images going in and out, bobbing.
Okay. Yeah, they're birds. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So those birds are nearby, right?
No.
And, no, I
No.
mean they're more near than the lighthouse. They're more near than the distant house behind the lighthouse, right?
That is that's a good question to ask. Okay, so here we go. I got it stopped right here. Okay.
But they.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just too keen. Sorry, Travis. Go ahead.
Draw a line where that bird is being mirrored, right?
I don't know how to do this in the video player, so
Or just imagine a line going through.
Yeah. Well, I would just cut it in half. I would just cut it in half.
Right. Okay. Now go back a little bit. Now assume that is nearer to you. Okay. Now go up in the frame and draw a line where those trees in the background are getting mirrored. Right. Those two lines are different. Correct. They're at different heights within the frame.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the further back something is, or the further away something is, the higher that line is going to be. I would say that's a general assumption about these photographs. Okay.
Sure.
So if I were to replace the bird with a boat, and the boat is now traveling away from me and getting further away from me, it's going to ascend within that mirage zone. There's going to be a mirror point on the boat itself, right? And that mirror point is going to ascend within the frame all the way up until there's a certain, like, we'll call it the true horizon point, where it actually meets the highest point or the midpoint of vision, let's say, the furthest distance of vision. And then after that point, it's going to start to set. That's what I'm claiming.
All right. Yeah, I think that we're talking about different aspects of the same phenomenon. So I don't have anything to disagree with on that. But I do have this interesting footage to give us here. This was like one of my very first Chesapeake Bay days back in July. So we've got the water line right here, and then we've got the inferior mirage. Now, my desire, I would love to get someone on a boat right here, because this inferior mirage equals a distance that we don't know. Like, can
I stop you right there? So I did, on this latest video, I did a perspective analysis, I guess, and how many feet are in each half division within a frame. And so what I found was, for a 6-foot observer, and just I tried to analyze a bunch of different inferior mirage photographs, and it seems like they all occur. So this is a little zoomed in, correct?
Yeah.
So if you were to zoom out, this inferior mirage zone is actually kind of a small part of the total frame, right?
Well, if I zoomed out, it would diminish, but it's not going to change the distance that exists.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, if you can watch that video, I'm saying is that apparent water line is actually only, I think it was about a mile away. Okay, if you're a 6-foot observer. So that water that you're seeing right there is only about a mile away. And
from me or from the opposite shore?
Say that again?
All right, when you say the water, do you mean the water line that I can see?
That you're pointing to right now, yeah.
Okay, and are you saying that you think that that's a mile away from me?
If you're at a 6-foot height.
Okay.
And after that point, it continues to compress and compress and compress, and you're getting more and more distance within each half subdivision until the mirror line.
Yeah,
and that mirror line is going to be, there might be 2 miles within like a very small
Sure.
portion of the total frame compressed within, just a small line.
Right. Yeah,
So-
I get that. I get that much. Yeah, I'll definitely check out your stuff. So, but I want to show something. I think you guys will be pretty impressed with this. Okay, so here we
I
go.
know y'all. I know you're killing me.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, Slick? I don't want to tax
It's
you.
killing me, man. You guys are going on and on and on with these photographs, man. When is it gonna end?
That's how we feel about experience, Tim.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, come on.
Okay, here we go.
That's not
Go
Here we
ahead.
go.
Go ahead.
All right, so we've got this boat. This is the first image I get of my red house that I've been shooting recently. Okay. Just a little nostalgia there, but I'm going to keep panning over here. Here we go. This white light is going to move across.
Yep, perfect. So I'm assuming, I guess that's a light from a boat.
There are no roads over there. It's just land. So
you're saying it's like a
I'm going to say, obviously, because we can't determine, but yes, I'm going to say that this is a boat. But what that means is that the water, it's on the water. So this is proving what we're talking about, the fact that the water continues into the distance.
Yeah, correct. I would agree with that. I guess it's not a light. It could just be a white boat. Yeah.
Either that or it's the windscreen.
Okay then.
Interesting.
So yeah, so the land above, you can even see it. You can see like that reversed C shape going across in the land bit above the water, which is to say that the mirage has brought the land down, so the water level is lower. But that doesn't mean that the water doesn't continue up towards the point that that blob is on, which it obviously does.
Right. That's my point too. Is that it's okay
Can I get a question
if you drew
in?
your horizon line there, that there would be obstruction behind that horizon line. There's no problem with that.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Slick.
What does all this mean?
Oh, go back to bed, Slick. Right, carry on, guys.
No.
Yeah.
That's the point of it is we're figuring out where the diffraction limit is. In other words, what's the actual horizon? And
we get into the nuts of it, and then we get asked a stupid rhetorical question.
no, it's a reasonable question, because if you don't know why we're looking at
What
this,
do you mean,
you
what's
don't
the
know.
point of it? It's bloody obvious what the point of it is. The point is, why are we seeing obstruction over water? That's the point. Right?
Very
That's
well
the
put.
point.
There you go. That's the reason.
So what does it mean?
Oh my God. Is this what it's going to be?
I'm going to
All right,
tell you.
no. I'll tell you what. I withdraw the question. Randy, I withdraw the question. Don't worry.
I'll answer the question.
I got a question for Paul. Paul, why did you mute Tim?
I've already addressed that to Nathan, so you guys can keep talking. I don't want to take up the time for the panel for what they're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so just to answer your question, Slick, the answer is that the baller will say that this line is curved. And what we're trying to establish and prove is that if this mirage were not here, you would see the water continue because there is physical water here behind this mirage.
I have a question for you. Did you say prove?
Well, not behind the mirage.
I'm not a
I just asked a question. Did you say prove or did you not?
Yeah.
No further questions.
I don't know that it's proof or not. It's an explanation for the visible world. And I think a lot of people have questions about how to make sense of the world. And if you don't, and I get what you're saying about you don't want to plant seeds in people's minds that end up not being true. And so the only thing we can do is just say, look, this is my opinion. This is kind of what I think is going on. And maybe down the road, we can expand on this concept and we can do tests that maybe provide more reasonable
and where is down the road? When is this down the road coming?
I don't know, but if we don't have a basis for any of the observations that we have, we'll never get there.
Well, how many observations have you made so far, and what do they mean up to this point?
Well, how many observations have I made so far? I would say a lot.
Not just
So
you, not just you. I'm talking about all of you guys with the observations. All you've been doing is the globe people make observations and then they declare. Then flat earth people make observations and then they declare. And then it just becomes a belief fest. This side believes against this side that believes. And it just goes on and on and on.
That's what the debate is, Slick. That's why we have a debate.
Yeah,
That's...
Slick doesn't like the fact that argumentation doesn't always persuade. He's like looking for the silver bullet so that we don't have to keep offering up this evidence or this evidence. Slick, you need to realize that you're dealing with a worldview. You're dealing with a set of paradigms
Beliefs, set of
that
beliefs.
are establishing how a person is going to interpret. So I'm not doing what I'm doing to convince Tim Osman. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for Granny Smith, Joe Coffey, people who are looking into this and that this will make sense for. So that's who I'm doing it for.
But what are you
our
doing?
starting point.
You said you're doing this. What are you doing?
Okay. I'm a little bit confused.
You said that you're doing this. You said you're doing this for these certain people.
Let me
what is it exactly that you're doing? Are you proving something?
Okay, you ready, Slick? Here we go.
Oh, again.
I am trying to establish that I can prove, okay, the image on the right. Am I still sharing, Nathan?
Yeah, I've just stuck you up.
Okay. So the image on the right has an inferior mirage. The image on the left does not. This was taken from the exact same spot, exact same elevation. This is a different day. We've got birds on the water. We've got land right here.
What does this prove?
Are you going to let me talk? Because I'm pretty sure I was talking right now and you just interrupted me.
What does this prove?
Stop interrupting him. You don't like it when people interrupt you.
So what does this prove?
No. Let him finish.
May I speak, Slick?
Yeah, but I'm just trying to find out what does it prove. I'm just
But
trying
let
to
him finish. I know what he wants.
Shout out to Colin Turner for hitting the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Well,
you know why it's long, Slick, is because you've interrupted me. Okay, ready? This image, we can see land, so there is land there. This image there, we can't see the land, okay? So as I said before, this mirror is blocking what's behind it. So this is proof, Slick, that there's land that's visible, which goes back to what I said before, that proves what I said that it proved earlier. I'm done.
I think Slick left the call.
Thank you.
I wonder if, so to me, there is some objective truth out there, whether or not we don't probably know it. We obviously don't know it yet, but it doesn't mean that there's not an objective truth that can be found. Or maybe it doesn't, but I don't know. I don't get that everything is just based on subjectivity. In other words, that if I look at an image, it's just based on my experience of what that image is. There is a shared experience among everyone.
Well, we're equivocating with what they do. So what they do is they go out and they observe and declare, and that's a reasonable objection from Slick. However, what we are stating is they're not going out and measuring curvature. There is no curvature to measure. All they can do is offer you up a number of feet obstructed, right, Travis? Based on a reification fallacy, using an R that they have presupposed and a calculation to get that number of feet obstructed and blame it on curve. Well, that's not what we're doing. The Earth is obviously and observably flat, and we're measuring. Taking measurements isn't the same as asserting that you've got an R. We're just looking at what we see and then measuring what we see. I don't see there's any problem in that. Just looking at the world. We're just looking at it through completely...
I think where we're at is they're observing and declaring, right? And we're coming at it and we're observing and kind of declaring an alternative. That's kind of how I look at it. Saying, okay, you're saying that this is curvature, and I'm saying that there are other explanations. And I don't know if it needs to be any more complex than that. I don't know.
I agree. And many of the things that we're discussing are absolutely demonstratable. So it's not that we need anything more than to demonstrate what we assert. If you can demonstrate it, then as far as I'm concerned, it is proven. If you can demonstrate that there's an obstruction and then reify a radius value into a mathematical calculation, that doesn't prove anything. Now, we're not proving anything either in this respect. We're just looking at what we see and measuring the effects that we observe. And for me, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to be doing. As I say, we're looking at it through new eyes. None of us have really observed the world with the eyes we have now, up until now. Hello, 100th man, how you doing?
Hi.
Hello.
Just some challenges with the mute, so I had to rejoin.
You're a bit quiet. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, hold on. Is this better?
Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was having some challenges with trying to get mute off and mute on, and finally figured it out by rejoining.
Hello, No Globe. Can you hear us?
How's it going, guys?
Hello, good to have you.
Yeah, I just want to also say, Nathan, that, you know, Slick and yourself, you both say that the world is obviously and observably flat. We wouldn't be having that debate if it was the case. You know, we can demonstrate through optical stuff that it is flat, but saying that it's always observably flat isn't the case. 9 times out of 10, when I go down to the beach, I see obstruction and the globers would claim curvature. And that's how they've been able to suppress this information for as long as they have.
Sure.
If it was observably flat all the time, everyone would intrinsically know that the Earth is flat.
Well, I mean, I beg to differ in 50% of your regard, which is to say that, yes, you can go out and you can observe obstruction. Well, the assertion that follows from the globe side is spurious, because it's used with a reification fallacy, i.e. begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator. Now, while we go out and look at the obstruction, the same phenomena, if you want to call it that, we don't attribute anything to it. We just go, that's an obstruction, because that is what you see.
Yeah, so trying to demonstrate that, I don't see why Slick needs to come in and say that we shouldn't be looking into it, or what's the point of it. It seems divisive tactics, really.
Fair enough.
I
Hey,
think...
Yvonne, how you doing? Can you hear us, Yvonne?
Yes, again.
Good to have you. Got about 5 minutes left on the live show, just so you're aware.
Yeah,
Hey, Nathan.
Hello.
Hey, Nathan, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I caught a bit of the earlier show where the fireworks were going. I wish I would have started at the right time, but it's funny how that video of that building, did he say it was 27 miles away?
I believe so.
I think he had 25. Oh, no, that
How
was
many?
25 feet.
27 miles away is what I think I heard him say, the distance of those different shots at the different elevation. Am I right?
We've had 3 different presentations. Which one are you talking about? Travis, Ranty,
Osborne.
or Tim
Osborne, the guy with the Utah building, and
He's talking about Tim.
Fine. Yes,
Tim Osborne.
I think it was 27 miles, yes.
Well, if that's right, that would be over 480 feet of curvature. How come those buildings aren't leaning backwards or sideways if we're on the ball?
Because they use 2 different types of mathematical equations. So when they're working it out in their favour for the drop from your position, they use 8 inches per mile squared. As soon as you go over to how much lean, they'll give it you in degrees. So they just use different structures of mathematics to explain away what we don't see, which is to say nothing's curving away from us. Nothing's curving. So
Sure, except in real life.
Exactly.
Except in real life, if it was curving, it would be on an angle. Those buildings are built vertically straight up, but if that's 486 feet of curvature, if we live on a ball, they should be leaning towards the lean of the part of the ball they're on, and they're not.
Right, and as you go up, if it's to be asserted that you're negating the curvature by raising an altitude, you should straighten them out as you look more square onto them by raising your altitude. Again, that doesn't happen either. So yeah, I agree with you in principle. The way it's obfuscated is to just change the mathematical description to degrees. So what is it?
Right,
1 degree every 69 miles. So you can't see half a degree. Okay, right, but we can see the curve of the Earth obstructing it from the bottom up. So it's just double standards, basically.
But yes, exactly. So they do the double speak and they bring in the math, and then you say to them, "Wait a minute, how tall is that building? If it's 486 feet of curvature, why are we even seeing it? Why are we even having this pointless discussion of the windows when we shouldn't even be seeing those windows?"
I'd like to say something.
Go
Well,
ahead.
can I get a response on that?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, we agree
100%.
with you.
Yes.
Okay, well then that's okay. So that's it. Then these guys.
You're right.
just
You're right.
got
It should
double
be end
speak.
of conversation.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Ivan.
Oh, I think where Slick might have a point is, look, we can't just look at these photographs or videos and just say, hey, the Earth is flat, Earth is a globe from that point of view, and I agree with that. I think when we have to be careful is we got to state what we're trying to prove. For example, when we see or show a specific point of evidence, whether it's a photograph or a video, that's proof that what is being observed is not what those declaring that the Earth is a globe is stating is being observed. So there's a little bit of difference because we can't
say
really.
that again.
It's proof. It's not just. It's so when we're looking at a picture or video, we don't want to state that it's proof that the Earth is flat or it's a globe. We just want the proof is in those trying to prove that the Earth is a globe. Flat earthers don't have to do anything.
Yeah, but
we observe it as flat. Now, it's just proof that what is being observed in the pictures and the videos is not what those declaring that the Earth is a globe is stating is being observed, in which they state is curvature.
Hey, Ivan. You remember last week where I gave Slick an example of the ATM being robbed, and the camera had a picture or a video of a 6'5" person robbing the ATM. Then when they had the police line up, they put a midget there of 3 feet tall, I think I said. And then Slick said, what does that prove? I said, well, that proves that the midget gets to go home and the 6'5" guy goes to jail. That's what that proves. Slick doesn't want to look at those things because he wants to change the word belief to experience. And that's his prerogative, and I respect him for it. But when I see with my eyes, that's proof to me. Now, if I have to prove it to you, I'll pull you next to me. We can both look at it. So I don't understand how you escape objectivism or reality or a world of matter.
So it's basically observing a phenomenon, just the very basics, the first part of the scientific method. We observe a phenomena. You've got your idea of what the phenomena is, and I've got my idea of what the phenomena is. Are either of us correct in that?
Sorry.
Well, let's go back to the
No,
video.
I've got to interrupt. Sorry. No, we're not doing science. So this isn't applying the scientific method. What we're applying is something called logical consistency. So in terms of what we observe, based on our knowledge of, say, for the sake of argument, atmospherics, you can apply logical consistency to your current understanding or my current understanding that what we observe is obviously flat. Now, if what you apply in terms of the mathematics to the temperatures or whatever you're going to assess, if it still falls within logical consistency, I could still assert that the Earth is obviously and observably flat. Now, on a perfect day, like Red Pill Philosophy has had when he had the lighthouse picture, just magnifique, absolutely sublime. You can see forever, right? Or so it would appear, and it seems perfectly flat. But there is still a certain degree of perspective to take into consideration, and you can calculate that. In other words, that also falls in line with logical consistency. So where Ranty would assert, or has asserted on this show, that, well, no, it doesn't appear flat to me. Well, yeah, it does. There's effects that you also observe, and you can apply your current knowledge to them. And what are we acquiring here? Well, we're acquiring that understanding. We're acquiring that knowledge by making repeated observations and drawing logical conclusions. Now, that's not scientific, and it could be proven incorrect. Frequently is during the debating process. That's the point of the debating process. Rather than us just putting it up and saying this is correct, this proves something, someone like Slick comes along and goes, does it prove it? And you go, well, okay, well, no, not really, but, you know, and then you have to get into the realms of describing what it actually does. Well, it falls under logical consistency. There's nothing wrong with logical consistency. We're not establishing a cause and effect here. If you want to establish a cause and effect for what Ibon was about to describe as a phenomena, then you go ahead. You start isolating your independent variable to cause that effect. If you can do so, then wonderful. You can establish scientific validity to your assertions, and that's nice too. But do you need it? Will it help humanity? Will it drive technology and scientific discovery when it comes to the refractive effects that we're studying? No, of course not. You can just look at them and you can draw logical consistencies. You're not going to be varying any cause of that mirage, let's be honest. So, there's nothing wrong with that. The only reason we're talking about science, and it is literally the only reason, is simple. Because they, our opponents, the people who say we live on a spinning ball flying through an ever-ending vacuum of space, they say it's scientifically valid, not us. So we don't need to suddenly concern ourselves with finding scientific validity. I personally am not looking to make any scientific discoveries here. If we happen to stumble upon something that needs scientific inquiry, i.e. a phenomena that you don't know what's causing it, then great, we might need that particular method. It's one of a billion, right? There's loads of different methods you can apply. But the relevance to it is that they, pseudo-scientists, masquerading as scientists, say that this is science when they say it's a globe. That's why we're asking for the standard. Doesn't mean that logical consistency is suddenly not a useful way of making conclusions. And it doesn't mean that those conclusions are proven to 100% a degree. And when our opponents say science isn't true to 100% degree, they actually mean they haven't got science, they've got the same as us, logical consistency, which can be proven wrong. But we're not saying it's 100% fact. We're saying this is what we observe, we're careful with our words, this is the conclusion we draw and why. Here are the measurements that we could apply to that. Take it or leave it. We're not saying it proves anything. That's the bottom line. I know from my experience, just to please Slick, that the Earth is obviously and observably flat. And whenever we look at something that seems to be logically inconsistent, you can do a bit of investigation, which is precisely what Travis is doing and precisely what Ranty is doing, in the face of those inconsistencies being applied to a globe model with the use of R. Ranty's daring enough to go, now let's have a look at these inconsistencies and see if it is actually curved, which is why he, rightly so, would say, no, some days I go out and I have the brainwashing of the logical inconsistency of curvature to deal with, and therefore it looks a bit curvy. Well, no, if you didn't have that reification of a globe model, you probably wouldn't assert that. You'd just say, look, the bottom of this stuff's gone. That's weird. That's all you'd say. It's only for the brainwashing that you say, oh no, some days it does go out and look curvy. Anthony does it. It's like, not to me. It's just something that's unusual with the tendency to look completely flat and the logical consistency that Dell applies day in, day out. Water's flat. Well, yeah, it is. At rest. Add that little caveat. The point being that it's not beyond logical consistency with investigation. And that investigation's got to be done by somebody if we're going to ever answer the difficult questions that have been utilised and hijacked by a model. So that's what we're doing. That's what Ranty's doing, and my hat is off to him. I've got a lot of applause for people like Travis and people like Ranty and people like Life is Short who go out there, red pill philosophy, the list goes on and on and on, and people are just having a little look. Well, why not? We've looked at it with a bloody brainwashed globe model in our forefront of our imagination every time we looked out at the horizon, told that it's a leading edge of a sphere. Well, we're not doing that anymore. Now we want to know what's really going on at the horizon. What happens at the diffraction limit? I want to know. You want to know. The audience wants to know. So let's have a look at it. If it means we've got to debate what we assert, then I think that's perfectly reasonable and should be the case. Everything should be up for challenge.
Slick Jones doesn't want to know, does he?
He just wants to challenge it. And that's how it should be.
He doesn't want to know.
He does.
No, I wouldn't.
He does.
He does want to know, but he doesn't want to use evidentiary evidence like they would in a court of law, because everything is, what does that prove? And he doesn't want to say there's. Can I finish? Can I finish?
No, I don't, because I don't want anyone.
Hold on one second.
No, I know.
Hold on, guys. We've got a new guest anyway. I need to. Hold on. We've got a new guest anyway. Hello.
You guys are speaking for Slick. I don't want any of you guys to speak for Slick, but Slick himself.
Okay, anyway, right, we've been joined by a new guest.
You guys are going on about what Slick was trying to say, what he thinks.
It's a matter of record.
Look, I don't care what you guys think. What Slick thinks.
With that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who have joined us live in the Nathan Oakley 1980 audience. If you're watching this on Nathan Oakley channel, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Thanks indeed to all the people who smashed the super chat. If you need something to keep you occupied after this live stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
I would say the best thing out there, if people can take the time to do them, are time lapses. You gain more from a time lapse than than any of these.
Yeah.
They're just hard to do.
I had 2 time lapses put up next to each other. I was kind of looking through my stuff, and I watched the water line rise.
Right.
Like Skunk Bay.
Yeah, just like that. Yep.
Well,
but the one thing that the one point that I want to
show.
make real quick that Nathan brought up was that the shorter distances, when we see this obstruction, what I'm trying to communicate is we need to understand that what we see at 5 miles in obstruction happens at 10 miles and 15 miles and 30 miles. It's the same phenomenon, only farther away.
Those were interesting photos you put up of the inferior mirage.
Thank you. I'm going
Yeah,
out
I mean,
again.
it even happens at 2 feet, Trav.
Hey!
Hey, how we doing, everybody?
But my last one of my last videos that I
tried right at the end and didn't manage it. Hey Zach, hey Bob, good to have you both. Nice to have you. Thanks
Hey,
for
Nathan.
joining.
I just had. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Let the new guest say hello. God.
Hello.
Hello.
I've been trying
It's
to join
his chicken.
since.
Let him cook it. It's his show.
The live show's over. I ended
Timmy
it with a
was sitting there
rumpusing
talking about zooming,
Go ahead, Zach.
and he was saying something about how zooming. You don't know what zoom I use, and changing the zoom doesn't really make a difference. If he changes the f-stop or the size of his aperture, it will absolutely change the amount that is hidden along the diffraction limit.
Why is that?
Well, because it changes the aperture size.
And what's that have to do?
A larger aperture is
That's more
means
light
a
in.
smaller, lets more light in, but it makes your angular resolution limit smaller. So it makes that angle smaller the bigger your aperture size is.
Is there a way to do that?
Okay.
When you zoom in, your f-stop will get, I think it's larger, which makes your aperture size smaller. Yeah.
There's also a limit. If you have a telephoto lens, you have a limit to your aperture size.
Yeah, he was talking about the P900, and I know it goes from, I forget what, but it goes up to like an 8 f-stop.
Okay.
So if you're zoomed, 60% in, or if you're at the 5.6 f-stop, and then you go up to the 8 f-stop, your aperture size is going to change. It's going to get smaller.
But that happens automatically in the camera itself.
In the camera, yeah. It's part of the, But it will change the amount that you see.
Sorry.
Let
Let me just get something in there, Zach. Sorry to interrupt you, just because it's so critical. So, yes, that happens in the camera. So, the diffraction limit is the camera end. I just want to make that clear. So, when we're talking about refraction or atmospheric effects or dirty air or whatever the bloody hell you want to call it, that's out there. It's what's happening in the thing that you're looking at. Whereas the diffraction limit is at the camera end or your eye end, and as Zach's pointed out, it's based on the aperture, or that's where your mathematics at least would start to calculate when things are going to start to disappear based on their distance, is due to the aperture. So yes, you increase the f-stop on your camera, that's going to change the diffraction limit because you're increasing the aperture.
How would you calculate that, Nathan?
Hey, can I just real quick? I would totally. That's absolutely correct. In my opinion, again, refraction is occurring prior to the light hitting the camera. Once the light hits the aperture, it's going to diffract. And I would just say, Zach, my opinion of zoom, I've kind of looked at this back and forth. I don't think zoom changes the diffraction limit of the observer. I think the thing that changes the diffraction limit would be changing observer types. So going from binoculars to a telescope, or going from a zoom camera to an iPhone, P900 to an iPhone, because the greatest aperture is going to be the greatest or the best resolution, right? And when you're zooming, you're reducing it. So in my opinion, all you're doing with zoom is just blowing a picture up within your view, but it doesn't necessarily change the diffraction limit. It doesn't change what you can see as a visible horizon. But if
Right.
Well, no,
so if
the,
I had
the
a boat
f-stop
this
though.
year,
Well, yes, you're right, and yes, with the f-stop, it is changing the aperture, but it's tightly calibrated, isn't it? So I think I'd probably, if it came to a row about it, Zach, I'd probably have to side with Life is Short on account of the fact that you'd have to calibrate the optics. So presumably, if you just increase the aperture size at massive zoom, it would just completely fuck the picture up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it wouldn't be
Well,
in
I think
focus
that if you
anymore.
change the aperture, what you do is you change the depth of focus, don't you?
Well, one thing to take into consideration that the
Was that a
zoom.
hard question? I
It was
mean,
a
if you
statement, though,
change
wasn't
the
it?
aperture size, don't you change the depth of focus? So, for example, if you have a large aperture like a 4, you would focus on your subject and just a little before and after. But if you have an f16, you could focus on a much larger area. Isn't that kind of the way that works?
Sure.
No, the f-stop works backwards. The larger the f-stop,
Is
the
the
smaller the
smaller
aperture.
correct?
Yeah.
So, when you have a smaller aperture, you
No,
have a
that's what happens
deeper
when you're
depth of
zooming in.
focus. No, if you have a smaller aperture, you have a deeper depth of focus, whereas a larger aperture, like, comparing an f16 to, say, an f2.8, you have a very tight focus that's right around your subject, whereas on an f16, you would see a lot of things between you and the subject and after the subject in focus.
Yeah, you're equivocating, though. What we're saying is, rather than changing the depth of field within the camera, if you increase the optics and their calibration entirely to go to something that's calibrated to have a larger aperture, like a telescope, in other words, you're going to get a greater resolution and a decrease in the diffraction limit. In other words, you will see further because of the bigger aperture, as opposed to changing it on the fly with zoom, which will be calibrated to that specific device, which was Life is Short's point. So as you go from an iPhone up to a P900 and from a P900 to a telescope, that's where the aperture difference makes the difference, as opposed to getting the focal length right.
Well, I'm not a professional photographer, but I've taken a few pictures in my life, and I think the aperture not only controls the focus, but controls the amount of light that is exposed to the film or the plate, right?
yes.
So if you have a zoom, you're bringing in a lot less light, so your aperture must be larger, right? In order to get enough light to take the photograph. Isn't that the way that kind of works?
Your zoom gets, as you zoom in, your aperture will get smaller. It'll go up on your f-stop, but what you do to find your aperture, you
So
take
the
the size of
camera
your
get
lens,
larger or smaller?
you
Yeah.
take the size of your lens and you divide it by the f-stop, and that'll give you the size of the aperture. So if your f-stop is getting larger, your aperture size is getting smaller.
So Zach, that's my problem with Zoom though, because what happens to D, the denominator in Rayleigh criteria, when you do that?
Yeah, it actually gets larger. So you're going to see less as you zoom in along that horizon. The amount that's diffracted.
The aperture gets smaller, right? So D gets smaller.
No. Well, yeah.
Okay, so what happens to the angle? The angle gets larger.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The more you zoom in, the actual more that will be diffracted along that line, along the horizon. That line will get actually bigger.
Okay, I mean, I can agree with that. If you're saying the resolution angle increases as you zoom in, I can agree with that.
Yeah, but what
I'd
you're
agree
doing
with that
is
as well.
you're describing zooming. That's what you're doing there, right?
Yeah.
Right, but that's different to physically increasing the apparatus aperture.
Right.
Well, as he mentioned, the f-stop divided by the aperture is your formula, right? Is that
the
correct?
lens.
Or
the size of the
focal
lens.
length. Yeah, the focal length divided by the aperture is the same amount of light on a larger lens. Wouldn't you'd have to change the aperture size, right?
Well, yeah, like I said, if you have a larger lens and you
how
have
would you
two that are
change the
both
aperture?
like
You can set you can change the aperture manually, but there's also a limit to the aperture size in a telephoto lens or whatever lens is incorporated within a specific camera.
Yeah, it
Now,
has to be within a certain range, or else it'll just be blurry. You won't have any clarity to it at all.
I agree. And you also need enough light to do it. So if I had a 50 millimeter lens and I had a certain f-stop, say an f4, and I increased that lens to a 500 millimeter lens, what would happen to the f-stop? What would happen to the aperture size?
it's also dependent on the ISO setting that you set for the camera. So
Same
there
for
could
both.
be low light, but if you
No,
have
we'll
a
use the
camera
same
that
for
can
both.
take pictures, and why are you interrupting me? I'm just trying to get people to understand a little bit more about cameras. So if you have a camera that can actually take a lot better pictures without so much grainy images being taken at low light settings, if you have a camera that can take pictures at a higher ISO, you don't need to have as much light. So you can take a lot of different pictures if you have a good camera. It doesn't have to be very, very bright. And sometimes very, very bright isn't that great because you won't be able to take as good of a contrast of pictures when you take pictures in bright light. So there's
Okay,
a lot
well,
of things. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Let me rephrase my question then again. With everything else being held equal, if I have a f-stop of 4 and a 50 millimeter lens, and I change out that lens and make it a 500 millimeter lens, what would my f-stop be in order to have the same amount of light hitting the film?
I'll take it from the pause that nobody has an answer. So
Yeah, I have no idea. My
Okay.
camera has all that stuff built into it. I don't mess with lenses and stuff like that. It's all, I just have a piece
All
of
right, I
thing.
was just curious.
So it's a little bit of weird calculation because f-stop based off of some, I think it's radius or something. So for example, an f1 lets in twice as much light as like a f1.4. So and then an f2 lets in twice. No, an f1.4 lets in twice as much as an f2. So there's a little bit of calculation there. That's why I can't give you.
Okay, so I started with an
definite
f4
answer.
at 50. How would I set up the calculation to get my f-stop for a 500 millimeter lens?
You're gonna have to look that up. I don't know off the top of my head.
Sorry.
Again,
right,
it's
fair
not
enough.
simple like.
Sorry, Bob.
claim
What's the
here?
point in the line of questioning, though? Where are you going with this?
All right. I was just curious.
Oh, fair enough. So you asked at the beginning. You asked
And
me
you know,
about
there's a lot of
you
things
asked me
that
at the
I don't
beginning.
know. There's nothing wrong with
okay,
not
your
knowing the
curiosity is
answer. I was just
fascinating.
curious if
Your
anybody did.
curiosity is really interesting. You asked me at the beginning. You asked me a question. You said, "What's the mathematics for the diffraction limit?"
Yeah, I am kind of curious. I'm thinking about turning over a new leaf, Nathan. I'm thinking about, instead of doing things on the globe, I'd like to prove the flat Earth. So I'm wondering, do you guys have a formula or something that I could use to calculate how much would be obstructed by the horizon in the refraction zone?
It's called a calendar. It's called April Fool's Day.
Hold on.
I like that.
No.
Hold on.
Actually,
Zach.
I'm not.
Hold on.
I'm not
Hold
crapping
on.
with you right
You've
now.
asked a question.
No, I'm not crapping with you right now. I'm
Sure.
not going to.
Yeah,
I
actually,
don't
I
know
have
you
a
guys
calculation that can give you the limit.
Bob, guys.
All right.
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah.
It's on my channel. You can find it in Perspective and How Our Eyes Work, the playlist I have. I can't remember the exact name of the video.
YouTube channel?
GUDTIMS, the number 4, ALL. And I pretty much just took.
What's your YouTube channel? I'll look it up.
Yeah, GUDTIMS, the number 4, ALL.
That's your YouTube channel? That's
Yeah.
your username on YouTube?
Good times for
Yeah,
all.
good times for all.
So, Zach, you know the mathematical formula off the top of your head. You've recited it once before. Because we're still in the after show and it's going to be dedicated to the recording, can you just rattle that off now?
Yeah, no problem. It's called Rayleigh's criterion. It is radians equals 1.22 times lambda over diameter. Lambda is just your wavelength of light.
Yep. Yeah, I'm familiar with the Rayleigh's criteria.
So that
Yeah, all I did was I took that and I applied distance to it, pretty much.
You say you're familiar with the Rayleigh criterion, so you appreciate that things disappear with distance then?
Yeah, the Rayleigh criteria
once
has
you
to
have
do mostly with
Hold on, Bob, let's let Bob answer.
Discernment.
Sorry, Bob. You appreciate that the Rayleigh criterion would calculate the diffraction limit, the point that things disappear into the distance. or a hair disappears because you're too far for the resolution of the hair.
Yeah, Rayleigh's criteria has to do primarily with being able to tell two things apart.
Yeah, the point where it's interfering, i.e. diffracting.
Yeah.
Right, so you appreciate that is a calculation for how things can disappear into the distance, correct?
Okay, so I can apply
I'm just waiting
the
for a
Rayleigh
yes
criteria.
or a no. Is that an okay yes or an okay no? Do you appreciate that is a calculation for how things can disappear into the distance? Do you
Yes.
appreciate? You do appreciate that?
Yeah.
Can you
Of
show
course
me?
I do.
Can you show me in any curve calculator where that formulation is taken into consideration, please?
Well, I'm not really interested in curve calculators
I am.
right now. What
This is
I'm
a
trying
flat
to do
Earth
is
debate.
I'm trying to figure
This is a
out.
flat Earth debate.
I'm trying to figure out how
it's a flat
I can
Earth debate.
predict
You've asked us enough
how much
questions
of
about
something will be
f-stops. Now I'm
distant.
asking you something, Bob. I would like
Sure, go
you,
ahead.
given that you understand the Rayleigh criterion and its significance in respect to things disappearing with distance, to show me in any calculation for your model of a globe that you believe you live on where that is taken into consideration, please.
It's not.
Why not?
Because it's basically based on triangles.
Sorry.
It-
It's based on triangles. We have a formula that you are aware of that takes into effect things disappearing with distance, and a calculation for things disappearing with distance doesn't take it into account.
You know, I think you raise a really good point, Nathan.
You're damn straight. It's a curve calculator that talks about things disappearing into the distance, and according to Bob the fallacy guy, it doesn't take into account the very calculation called the Rayleigh criterion that absolutely accounts for things disappearing with distance. That's very interesting, Bob. I'd agree.
Nathan, why are you calling me names? I came on here very nice. Panel?
Because you came on before and used fallacies repeatedly. You talked about R and used it to reify the horizon into the leading edge of a sphere. That's a fallacy called reification. So you are
Did
called
I do that today,
Bob.
Nathan?
I'm talking. You asked a question. Do you not like the answers? When you repeatedly use fallacy instead of science, you will be appropriately named Bob the fallacy guy, as opposed to Bob the science guy. If you provided science, we wouldn't need to call you Bob the fallacy guy. So, Bob the fallacy guy, you have confirmed for my audience that the calculation for your reified sphere world that we absolutely do not live on does not account for the calculation for things disappearing into the distance, which would be the Rayleigh criterion. Why? Why not? Has he run away?
Yeah, he left.
Oh my God. So he's realised that by conceding that he understands the Rayleigh criterion and that it absolutely deals with things disappearing into the distance, and conceding that it does not get accounted for in the global mathematics, he's performed one of the biggest blunders of the globe side probably in the last 2 or 3 months. I hope he realises that was
Where's my
recorded.
5K, Rory?
Yeah,
But I've been trying to tell that guy
damn,
for
you
a
stole
week
my
now.
thunder. I was just about to get there for you, Zach. Right, absolutely correct, Rory. Just in case you're listening, you'll get a nice little trimmed out version of this on Zachary Zabala, GUDTIMS number 4. All will be trimming out this little section of this video and presenting it for the $5,000 you owe him. Zachary Zabala's owed $5,000 by a guy called Rory who asked about perspective, claiming that it was included. Well, we've just had a declaration from someone on his own side, Bob the science guy, that makes it very clear it isn't. So, somebody owes Zachary Zabala $5,000. His name's Rory.
Yeah, I saw him still making the offer too today.
Sorry to move this back a little bit, but when I was trying to explain the whole proofs and the photographs and the videos, you put it nicely, Nathan, but one of the things I want to try to do is make the definition as concise as possible. And so one of it is when there's the possibility of more than one result in what is being observed, and one of those results of that, and one of the results of that observation is used in a scientific experiment, then that result alone cannot be considered as proof to validate the hypothesis. I know that's wordy. I'm just trying to find a way to make that as concise as possible.
Yeah, well, that means that's referring to systematic experimentation. So
yes, and I know, and that's what's being used in the globe Earth model to prove, because it's considered one of the proofs that the globe is that the Earth is a globe.
I see. What you're saying is that particular aspect of the scientific method gets hijacked also by globeheads. So they say, well, it's science. It's been done systematically. And it's like, no, systematic validation of a hypothesis by multiple sources to make absolutely certain that your apparatus wasn't incorrect, your hypothesis wasn't invalid to begin with, you've actually performed the method correctly. That's why you continually perform the experiment ad nausea, if you like. That's why John goes on about 5,000 versions of this and whatever, because people continue to do the experiments. So it's continually validated. It doesn't mean that suddenly, if you've got something that has been validated over and over again, the chances are they're looking for further discovery. You wouldn't have the delayed choice quantum eraser if you didn't have first the double slit experiment. So in other words, people will continue to do that experiment looking for further ways and more scientific discovery off the back of scientific discovery, so they can make scientific theories. But that systematic element is also absolutely hijacked by globeheads. Well, when Ranty gets something like a guy going, well, have you repeated the observation? So you don't need to. That's an aspect of the scientific method that's just being hijacked to make it seem more or less valid when you take a picture of something.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello.
10th man here. When I saw Ranty's picture, I see land and building, but I also see the water. Now, we know water finds its level when it's in a liquid form. So you know how you use, and this is just a question, you know how you use a second reference point for the Coriolis effect. In these pictures, can we deduce by our understanding of liquid water, right now I got a cup of coffee in front of me, the container is the cup, so it shapes to the cup, but the top is level, meaning the water, or the coffee in this case. So in Ranty's picture, it's the same kind of substance. It's liquid. It's not frozen. It's not in the gaseous state. So it's just in the liquid state. So we know water is going to find its level. So as we're looking at Ranty's picture, and we get to that place where perspective shows compression and all these different things that we're all pointing out, that doesn't change the nature of the water. So we can go by the second reference point, the water, and say the water's level, but my eyes, based on distance and how eyes work, show mirage or compression, all this stuff. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's what I said earlier. It's logical consistency. Again, you've not expressed anything scientific in what you've declared, right? Observe and declare. Well, no, it's logically consistent. Water remains flat. Right. The thing in the distance is going to be at, guess what, sea level at your side and at the other shore, right? Unless you've got things like tidal bores and blah, blah, blah. Other things that you'd have to apply the same yardstick to. But ultimately speaking, you've got a general rule of thumb that sea level is sea level. It's going to be the same on your side as theirs. And if you've got something in between that's obscuring 3 or 5 or whatever feet of the shore on the other side, yeah, you can absolutely apply your logical consistency to it and say, well, I still know the water's flat.
Precisely. So when we are challenged, what does that prove? Well, I don't have to prove because I already know water is flat. It's always flat. You can test it. I'm not saying in a empirical method. I'm saying just test it in any bowl, any cup, any container. It will always show flat. Working on buildings, we have a level, you have a bubble, and they use water to find level. So we already can prove that the level can show you a flat surface or no one can build a house straight.
But that is empirical.
I totally agree. I just don't want to. I just don't want to.
No, I know.
I just don't want to lose the point with Zach because I'm just so excited about it. So, any chance we can have a little natter about that? Sorry. You still there, Zach?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, I was where I was going, and when you stole my thunder, I was going to be passing over it to you anyway. But obviously, we were of like mind during that little stint, right?
Yep.
I could see you hovering over the mute button. I knew exactly what I wanted out of Bob then, and we got it. I'm just so chuffed, aren't you?
What?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's about time that somebody on their side admitted that this actually takes place.
Basically,
when they admit that small things disappear, they've lost.
Exactly. That's perspective. That's the essence of perspective. And Rory has challenged. It turns out me, although I've never watched any of Rory's videos. I've clicked on one of them once to approve it in a comment. Turns out this guy's got a shitload of videos on me, creepy fucker. Anyway, Zach comes on and points out, well, was in the comments arguing with him about this $5,000 that he's owed, right, from this video ages ago. And basically, this stupid idiot has basically challenged somebody to show where perspective is not included in the curve calcs, because of course it's included, right? No. And then we've got Bob the science guy saying, well, yes, I am aware of Rayleigh criterion. What perspective? Things in the distance disappearing. Yeah, that's perspective. And now we've got him admitting that it doesn't account for it.
So basically, Bob came in and sealed the deal for good times for all. Good stuff.
Yep, sealed the deal.
Yeah, I'm not expecting the money, though. I mean, come on.
Of course not. He's a lying globehead son of a bitch. He's not going to pay you a penny because he's a lying, cheating globehead.
It's just nice, you know?
I mean, if he does pay up, I'll actually have some respect for him, but, you know.
Oh, yeah, I would, too.
Yeah, we'll have some respect if he pays where he's absolutely and definitely lost. Which he has. He's unequivocally lost this argument. We knew that months ago, right, Zach? Ooh.
Yeah, we've known this for a while now.
Yeah, we've known it's part of the title. Perspective hijacking isn't in the title of the calculator for nothing.
Well, maybe Rory's not up to date with the flat Earth debate.
Clearly not. You know,
clearly not.
We've discussed all that on this show. It's a shame he's not here now, but when Ranty was here earlier, you know, his turbines, you know, they're a real turning point. That's why it was a bit narky when what's his name, Ronnie, is it? Limitless Channel came on and he's like, oh yeah, you guys. I remember it distinctly. Him saying that he was photoshopping in curvature when he was showing the wind turbines, and they show linear perspective, perfectly in line with what we would expect to see. And it just, I don't know. Good times for all. Is he still here? Not good times for all. Life is short. When you showed us the curve calcs with the actual geometric curve next to the 8 inches per mile curve, next to linear perspective, and just how close they are to each other, you're like, whew, you know, that's all they've done. They've hijacked perspective.
Right, and they realized that we're not going to be able to see beyond a certain distance. And so how would you ever really know, you know, because they are very close to one another, at least to 3 miles. And that's how I believe they got the Earth's radius, was 2 theta. So that's how I show in that part 5. At 2 theta is 0.0432 degrees, and that comes out to a arc angle, or that's the arc angle, and then the chord across the top is the is essentially 3 miles. And then when you extrapolate that out to a sphere, you come up with the radius of Earth. But they knew that you would not be able to challenge that until we had these capabilities of cameras that we have now. And now we're looking at it, we're going, it's not exponential, it's linear. And so what else is going on here?
Yeah, other than atmosphere, you know, foreshortening when you're raising and lowering, perspective as a general rule of thumb, atmosphere when you get these strange effects of miraging. But ultimately speaking, there's pretty much those 3, and that's it, right? What else is there to factor in?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we're on this, it's kind of cool in some way because we're disproving all these old paradigms, but we're at the paradigm shift, I guess, if you will, if we want to be so bold as to call it that, is the new things that are, you know, out there to be looked at. I don't know. I have to go, guys.
Well, just before you do, because I normally thank the panel on the round out when I round out for the after show or live show, whichever one it may be. In this instance, I've got to say, guys, those 2 shows, probably the best shows in the last 3 or 4 months. Absolutely superb. Hope Zach.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun listening and watching.
Yeah, I hope you trim that bit out, Zach, and shove it in Rory's face.
Yeah, I mean, it's been good kind of throwing these ideas out there and tossing them back and forth.
Cool. yeah, so another big thank you, and I will do it like formally now. So with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel. As I say, it was a fantastic debate today, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley premiering stream for tuning in, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, sharing, all that good stuff. If you need to keep yourself occupied after this debate is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!